Just got to give this a few seconds. Believe that we are looking pretty good. And then the only other things I need to do, just want to pin this.
Did you already start it?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Hey, team. We're going to post this, and then I am going to in this. We're good now. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Hey, Quinn. How you doing? All right, guys. Welcome to my very first Talk Shop Live. Hope you guys are ready. So this is going to be actually split. If you want, you can also see the lovely Keiko Lynn with me right here. This is going to be split up between on Talk Shop Live, on Instagram, Facebook, and then also on YouTube. So if, depending where you are on your particular platforms, if you are watching this on Instagram, then what you can actually do to actually get a signed copy of the book is basically just hit comment the word shop in the comments, and it's going to send you a link in the bio. And today we're going to be selling a copy of Retro Recipes Kitchen, Retro Recipes, and we're going to be selling this with autographed copies in here. Now, to get this ready, we're going to be doing a demonstration on the butterscotch bread pudding this in here. So it should be a lot of fun.
And if you have any questions for Bobby, drop them in the chat and I will read them out to him so that he can keep cooking and answering your questions.
And you know what? I'm going to make these a little bigger because the laptop's a little further away.
Wow.
So you can feel free to do anything
Okay,
you can do.
well, the first question was, hello, I ordered your cookbook. I think they deliver the first week of June. Yes?
Yes, that is true, Jeremy.
What is the date?
It's going to be on June 2nd. If you already pre-ordered the book, it's going to be arriving at your house on June 2nd. And
all right, what inspired you to create Retro Recipes?
This is a lot of fun. So Keiko and I have always had kind of like a really massive interest in ephemera and past histories and things like this. And so with Retro Recipes, it was one of those things where I already really enjoyed the idea of cooking. And I wanted to try to find a way to merge my interest with, I don't know, like making something visually appealing, you know? So it kind of started off as like stemming from just wanting to create something very visually interesting and fun, but playing with just like the retro vibe and everything that which we already really loved. And so I just kind of stumbled into it, and then I fell in love with it, and here we are. So,
right.
And yes, this is my actual kitchen.
I'm going to go through the questions while you get started because we have to show them how to make the recipe.
This is a true story. So this is why Keiko's here.
And because I want to eat some of the bread pudding. It's really good.
So once again, we're going to be cooking out of this cookbook right here. Keiko's going to hold on to this and show fun little demos, but we're going to get started first things first with our butterscotch sauce we're making for the butterscotch bread pudding. So what we're going to basically be doing with this first is just adding a lot of really fun ingredients in a simple little pot. You don't really have to overthink this too much, but it's basically, and I have the little measurements in front of me, a cup of brown sugar that I'm just going to add in here. And then just like a nice generous pinch of salt as well, about a teaspoon. And that's what I'm going to be adding in here. I'm going to take about 3 tablespoons of just unsalted butter because we already added salt. And then also about a half of a cup of just light corn syrup. And this is one of the few occasions where I actually do use this because it really does make such a huge difference when you're actually making this syrup.
I can see the sauce a little bit.
Yeah.
Jason, yes, anything that you buy tonight will be signed by Bobby.
This is a true story.
And Gina asked, is this book all meals or are there desserts in it as well? There are plenty of desserts. There are even some beverages and breads.
Including this one that we're making right now.
And there's some really fun retro party appetizers. So I want to show you guys the one that he's making right now is the butterscotch bread pudding. Let me see. There we go. And you can see there's these amazing illustrations by Brandon Campbell.
The best. So this is a really simple and fun thing to do. It sounds really intimidating, but I promise you it's not. we're going to be adding all of these ingredients into this pot. And then all I'm going to do is just bring it up, let it kind of cook for a little while, and it's going to come to a boil. And you're just going to let this kind of bubble and boil for about 3 to 5 minutes. And then at that point, you can remove it from the heat and add some heavy cream in there. And so what you're basically doing is you're cooking this until it's nice and loose, everything's melted and, incorporated and at the right temperature. You don't have to really think about it too much because if you're boiling, it's already going to be good. It's fine.
Okay.
But this is one of those little simple processes that I start the book off with this and this recipe because it's going to take a little bit of time. So if you guys actually focus on getting this going first, that's always a good thing. And I usually start this on like a medium to low heat because that's where I'm going to have the most control over things. So that as everything's melting, I can then just focus on ripping up the bread and everything else. So,
and what happens if you cook it on a higher heat?
Well,
if you get impatient like I do.
Yeah. So it's okay to kind of get it ripping and stuff like this. You can expedite this by going a little faster. You just want to make sure that you're paying attention. You're not just letting it go and then trying to multitask, because sugar does burn. And if you let this go too high, it's going to just spittle and ruin everything.
Somebody asked how many recipes are in the book. Do you know the final count?
So in the book, there's roughly about 100 recipes. Which person said this?
It was higher up here. I'm sorry. I just didn't want to interrupt you cooking.
No, you're fine. We want to use names. So everybody,
while you're doing that, maybe you can answer a few more questions. Gina wants to know, where do you think your interest in the past comes from?
I don't really know. Yeah, maybe Keiko. It's like, it's one of those things where I've always had kind of like this interest with thrifting and secondhand goods. But when you meet somebody like Keiko, who just is so dialed in with a look and a vibe, you kind of get a little left out, and so you want to be a part of it.
And I love the little stories behind everything. So anytime we were watching an old movie, or he shows an interest in a certain type of music or clothing, I would be like, oh, fun fact.
Yeah.
And he is the king of fun facts. So.
I am the king of fun facts. Yeah. When you're kissed with a little ADHD, everything is a fun fact.
We were talking about this the other day, and one of the things that you mentioned that I think would be interesting to them is that you are really interested in the parallels between the past and today, and how the scarcity and the invention that came out of it reflected their cooking styles.
Yeah.
And that's super relevant today. So the ingenuity behind all these recipes is quite fascinating. All right, Ariel said, or I don't know if it's Ariel or Ariel, how did you select the recipes included in the cookbook?
It was honestly really tough. And it's something that Keiko and I actually have thoughts about, because we really wanted to have so many more recipes in here. But it's one of those things where 100 recipes is still a lot of them to include, but it's really, really difficult to only select, maybe let's say 20 of this or 10 desserts or something like this. So I had to be really thoughtful about it and make dishes that I thought would be interesting, approachable, but at the same time very retro with a nice history, because some of the dishes that I really love are entirely obscure and unknown. Like, one of my favorite things is the Delmonico pie, and that is just something that nobody will ever really find in another book. I found it in one. I couldn't find really any history behind it, but it was interesting. Now, one fun thing really quickly, if we tilt this down just a tiny bit,
can you lift it up a little bit?
So now we're starting to kind of get to this point where the sugars are starting to kind of bubble and boil. And so this is that point that I was talking about, where it's you really want to try to kind of let it go right here and just kind of keep your eye on it. Oh, sorry. You just want to kind of keep your eye on it and just kind of constantly stir it around. It's not going to scorch or burn or anything, as long as you're doing this with a little silicone spatula or a whisk. And just be very careful, because this is incredibly hot. So we're going to let this go for just another couple of minutes, and then I'm going to take it off the heat. Add some heavy cream.
Here's a great question.
Great question.
Is this American style old-fashioned cooking, or is there any international type of influence, or is this more classic American?
That is a really great question. It says undisclosed user. So I can't mention your name, but so most of these recipes are kind of considered to be like American staples, but really what I try to talk about and explain is that America is a melting pot. A lot of the food and the influence that we have was inspired by or came from other nations. And so I think, for example, like in the Midwest, we have hot dish or casseroles, like things like this were also very popular, kind of brought in from other nations and were inspired by things like goulash or things like this. So it's really not uncommon to kind of find a little parallel between, sorry about that. It's really not uncommon to find a parallel between European international dish and an American dish because they're very, very similar. So now I'm going to add just a little bit of heavy cream into this. And yeah, if you don't mind tilting it down. So this is a really interesting thing. You take it off the heat and you pour it in. And what you want to do is just be very careful because you might be able to hear it. You might be able to see it, but it is bubbling like crazy. And so what I want to do is switch to the whisk at this point. And this is going to just basically set this delicious butterscotch syrup.
And you guys, this is such a good recipe.
Yeah, I've made this a lot. We were very excited to like test this over and over.
Kendall asked, did you face any challenges while researching or testing the recipes?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest stressors and testers was the fact that like most of these dishes were not as thoughtfully designed as maybe a test kitchen today would have had, a lot of these recipes were good enough, and a lot of them had holes. They didn't have enough seasoning, or perhaps the ratios weren't correct. And so if you tried to make something, it might be really gluey. One example is actually the carrot croquettes, which I honestly loved. And, it was one of the things where I made it and it was like, this is kind of like, okay. But Keiko was like, yeah, Keiko was like, it's kind of like Play-Doh. And so we actually modified it, played with it, and then I also introduced a little bit of Madras curry in there and kind of turned it into like an updated version of something that would, you could find this on a menu in a restaurant and be completely happy with it. So
they're really, really good. Yeah, that's why he calls it vintage dishes with a modern twist. So these are updated for the modern palate, although some of them are preserved as they are because, they are pretty perfect, except he tweaked the recipes for more user friendly, because sometimes, and if you sew, it's similar with sewing, no measurements.
Yeah, a lot of the dishes were just kind of intuitive.
Just on vibes.
Yeah, vibe checks. Yeah. And then Isabel, I did not go to culinary school. I almost did. There was a period of time when I almost did. I was working in a kitchen in New York City and I was considering doing it. And I was talking to my chefs and they were actually saying, I really don't think you need to. You're learning more doing this practically and getting paid for it. But that said, it's not one of those things where I think it's a bad idea. I think it's actually a great idea if it's what you want to do. It's just wasn't my direction. It wasn't my calling. So now we've got the butterscotch sauce already out of the way. It's just chilling and hanging out, and it's going to be good to go until the rest of the time. And it's going to render a lot more than you really need. So it's perfect because then you can do what I do and then just save the rest of it in a jar,
It's so good, but it makes me so angry because then every time I see it, I want to take a spoonful of it.
It's so dangerous. So the next step that we have basically coming up is just going to be making the actual bread pudding itself. And I'm just kind of coming in here with just a whole bunch of just big loaves of bread. I prefer to use stuff like this where it's uncut because I really like to have chunks of bread pudding. I don't want it to be really tiny, fine brunoise or anything. I want it to just have thickness because as it comes together, that's the kind of thing that you're going to look for with the texture and holding itself together. So you can use a bread knife or something on this, but I personally prefer just to kind of make big rustic chunks that are maybe about this big, and then just chucking them in a bowl on the side, because ultimately what's going to happen is they're just going to get soaking with a custard and they're going to get all mushed up and delicious anyway.
Okay, while you're ripping that up, I'll ask you some more questions. Okay. LaFaili has a comment. I just finished watching Bobby's season of Next Level Chef. I too love vintage shopping, clothes, and cookbooks. So excited to find you all. Thanks for doing this. Excited about the cookbook.
Thank you. That's so fun. And it's funny because I still get a little PTSD when I think about being on Next Level Chef.
Natasha said, what are your must-have ingredients in your kitchen?
My must-have ingredients. This is such a great question. So if it was a mix between ingredients and tools, I would say I'm not exactly a brand person per se. I don't need to use a brand of something, but I really love using, if we're going to talk about a brand, Diamond Kosher salt is the type of salt that I like to use. I don't use iodized salt for anything. It's basically useless. When you're cooking, you want to use something like a flaky salt. So I like to use Diamond Kosher. And then one of the most important tools in my kitchen is my bench scraper. This is almost always kind of living like underneath my cutting board, just stuck on the side. I pull it out and scrape and then put it back. This is the most used tool next to my knife.
And your cutting board.
Oh, and my cutting board, yeah. So excellent. Tilt this down a little bit. This is a brand new Boards by Shore cutting board that my buddy Josh just had made for me, and I'm so excited about it. But if you get like a nice cutting board, you want to get like a nice thick wooden cutting board. You don't want to use something really firm because it's just going to dull and break your knives. So a wooden cutting board is the move, and it is naturally antiseptic, especially if you just take care of it. Wash it with soap and water, give it a little bit of oil.
Rachel asked, how do you think retro recipes compare to modern cooking in terms of flavor and nostalgia?
Well, that's actually a really good question. So, I mean, when I'm talking about, are you talking about like my recipes, you think?
I think just in general, because if you think about it, you have updated things for the modern palate.
Yeah.
There's a natural progression depending on the decade.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, like personally, I think that, there's so many things that we eat today that people really loved and ate back in the mid-century period. But I think the big difference is if we were to kind of go there, like how to compare it, is that we today rely on salt a lot more heavily. It wakens up your palate and it makes it a little more exciting. So I think that that's definitely something. And I don't know.
What do you think about availability in terms of, having everything available all the time?
Yeah, that's actually a really great point. Yeah, I mean, if you actually consider that, I mean, like now today, you can literally get spices from Nepal, like sent to your house. Whereas before, you'd be lucky if you could actually, find a particular vegetable or something if you couldn't grow it yourself. So I'm gonna tilt this up just a tiny bit.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Lisa would like to know, are there any tips you would give to someone trying to recreate these vintage dishes?
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, like I would suggest reading the recipes twice. If you could actually do a tester beforehand, that's always a great idea, just to make sure that's what you're looking for. But at the end of the day, I think the retro dishes, what made them so fun in the mid-century period in particular, kind of like the 50s, 60s, 70s, it was just that they were very bold, they were loud, they were really interesting and creative. Like one of my favorites is the dumbest dish in the world, but I think it's hilarious, is the burning bush. It's so stupid, but I love it. It's the most like retro kitsch. Like if you have a retro party, you have to be doing a burning bush because it's basically a grapefruit with little skewers that stick out of it.
Here, I'll find the photo.
Yeah, I find the photo. And it's just it's the silliest thing in the world. Boom.
Oh, why am I so bad at this? This is the burning bush, and it will definitely be a topic of discussion at your next party.
100%.
I can't tell you what it tasted like because I don't eat chipped beef. Well, I don't eat beef, but I'm sure it's great.
So,
is there a fun Jell-O dish in the book? Are there ever?
Oh.
I made him put those in there.
You did.
As a bona fide fan of Jell-O, I said it would be a crime not to include some gelatin.
I think it's actually in the end.
At the end. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well,
there's some savory ones too.
Oh yeah. So there's a lot. We actually have somewhere around maybe like I think 3 or 4 different gelatin-based dishes. Some are aspics, which are kind of considered to be more of like a savory gelatin dish, and then others are a little, like just sweet fun things. But
this one,
yeah,
is genuinely so delicious. I think
so
that
good.
this should be brought back. I really, really like that. It's like a chiffon Jell-O cake.
Yeah, it's really, really unusual. It's just a little tedious, and it's kind of like one of those things where a lot of the gelatin aspect dishes are super fun to make, but they're just you have to go in planned, because if you don't, that was one that we had to R&D a lot.
Yeah, shout out to the recipe tester,
Shout
Michelle,
out to Michelle.
who patiently and lovingly recreated every recipe to make sure that you could all follow these at home. She did such a fantastic job. And somebody said, give us your best fun fact. Oh yeah, because I did put you on the spot. I said you're the king of fun facts.
I mean, what was it like?
I have a really fun fact. Wait, that's kind of cheating for me.
Before going too far, let's get the exact date, because I don't want to look like a silicons. But let's see. Yeah, 1939. So a fun fact that I think is fun is the fact that we associate the chocolate chip cookie as the most American cookie you could possibly eat. It's the only cookie that anybody wants to eat. But what most people don't realize is that the chocolate chip cookie that we know as today wasn't even invented until 1939. So it's actually a pretty new cookie in the grand scheme of things, because it was actually invented by Ruth, was it Bigfield? Wakefield, sorry. Ruth Wakefield, at the Toll House Inn in Massachusetts. So it's actually like Toll House cookies. That is the original chocolate chip cookie. And this recipe in here is actually the original recipe with maybe like the most mild tweak. Like I think I like to add a pinch of salt.
And you preferred grinding the walnuts versus having them chopped, which is very true. So good. Or you can omit them.
Or you can omit them entirely. But yeah, I personally think that actually like processing the nuts in there actually makes it is a better mouthfeel, but at the same time it really incorporates it a little better. Please do. Keiko took these beautiful photos, by the way.
I'm so bad at this. What? Look at how wonderful that is with all the kitties.
Also, once again, just for anybody who might be tuning in a little late, if you guys are actually watching this right now on TalkShopLive, you guys can actually just click the shop button that's actually available to actually pre-order this signed book. When I do,
you said actually 5 times.
It makes fun because I say actually a lot, and I won't stop. So, but also, if you're watching this on Facebook or Instagram, just comment the word shop, and it's going to automatically send you a DM with the actual link in there. And if you're on YouTube, just go to the link in the bio. Actually, so okay. Now that I'm getting canceled from Keiko for saying actually too much, the next step afterward is we got our bread. Now you see, like, let's look at how big this is. This is very rustic, chunky chunks. Like I want big. This is just me personally, okay? Now you take just a little bit of butter that was actually just melted, and I'm just gonna pour it in here and just kind of toss the bread in this. This is just like a nice way to ensure that the bread itself is actually going to be fully coated. Even though everything is going to be incorporated, there's a method to this madness.
Emma asked, do you include any family or personal stories alongside the recipes?
Oh, I had a whole bunch between, my own personal family history and even a lot of influence from Keiko's family. There's some
Grandma Mo.
Yeah, great grandma Mo. There's a recipe in there actually for tilapia dish on papillote that was inspired by her grandfather. And I just have little anecdotal stories about my own personal childhood growing up. Like I grew up in a family that didn't actually do a lot of really good cooking. My mom tried; she did everything she could, but like we grew up like a lot of millennial kids that lived off of Stouffer's or like frozen foods and things like this. And so for me, like little things like breakfast for dinner is always like the most special memories that I had. But when it came to actual like food, it was never anything necessarily that my mom would cook. It was more just the things that I really loved that felt special. So chicken Kiev is, I think, actually.
I pulled it up immediately.
Oh yeah.
That one always makes me think of your mom.
Yeah, chicken Kiev is just one of those things that like I grew up on that, and it's like if we found out that we were doing that, it felt like you won $1 million. So this is a little photo.
Bobby's family would do the frozen version of this, as many of us did in that time, especially with working parents and everything. And this one is completely homemade, and it is fabulous.
It's another one.
Which one?
Mrs. T's pierogies.
Yeah, he made homemade pierogies in here. But I will say, no, I shouldn't say. I was going to say you can also do some Mrs. T's at a pinch and just say that you made them from Bobby's book.
Now, I'm going to put the bread off to the side for right now because we're going to be working on the actual custard base right here. So the way that I'm going to be doing this is, just I have another bowl on the side. And what I have over here is basically 4 eggs. And I know that you guys love when I do like the egg toss and stuff. I didn't want to do that in the video here. So, I've got I've got 4 eggs and then 2 egg yolks because you really want this to be a rich, thick custard. And so I'm just going to pour this in here. Also, this is like a pro tip: save your grillers, pickle chip containers and stuff because these are excellent for storing.
That's a true vintage cook because I mean,
nothing.
Yeah.
And so now at this point, I'm also just going to be adding about 1.5 cups of sugar. So I'm just going to put this in here.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Juliet asked, are there any new projects or cookbooks you're working on after Retro Recipes? Well, hopefully you all will buy Retro Recipes and it'll be such a smash success that it'll have no choice but to follow it up with a second.
Yeah, let's put it this way. This is entirely dependent on you guys.
Yeah, pressure, but it's entirely dependent on all of you that are watching this right now.
Now, what I'm actually doing over here, this is the journey. So what I'm actually, hey Priscilla, how you doing? What I'm actually doing over here is I'm actually just whisking this. I'm introducing a lot of air and I'm trying to get it into kind of like a pale color. So not bright yellow, just kind of like a light pale yellow. And this is going to incorporate the sugar in here, but it's also going to introduce this a little bit of air.
Priscilla asked, how do you think Retro Recipes can be adapted for today's dietary preferences?
Well, let's see. I mean, one of the good things about this is that I try to teach everybody how to actually do things from scratch. So instead of, let's say, relying on, canned soups or things like this, like if you wanted to avoid something, I'm teaching you how to make things like the sauces from scratch. So instead of like grabbing a can of cream and mushroom soup, I'm going to teach you how to make something like a sauce normande, which is like a nice French sauce. That's basically the same thing, but a lot better and so simple. So
if they're gluten-free, they can substitute something.
Yeah, you can substitute things. You can kind of make it so that it's a little more tailored for your own palate. So, and again, for example, like this particular dish would call for, like pecans or walnuts or things like this. We don't really need it. So it's like, I'm not adding it in this particular version of this, even though it is in the book, because sometimes it slaps. So. Ooh, Happy Bee, what is my favorite boxed cake? It's a top one. Funfetti.
Yeah.
All day. I think it's Betty Crocker too.
No, it's Pillsbury.
Is it Pillsbury?
I love Funfetti.
So here we are. And if you look at this is nothing more than just egg and sugar. And it's just been whipped, but now it's like this really light kind of pale golden color, pale yellow. So that's where I want to be. So now I'm going to also be adding in here just a little bit of sugar or salt, sorry.
And this is the custard that you're going to put?
This is going to be the custard base for this bread pudding. And then here's the really fun part. And this is maybe going back to where we were talking about like tailoring this for your own personal diet preferences. But if you happen to be gluten intolerant or dairy intolerant, this is not for you because this is going to be including 4 cups of heavy cream.
Is there anything they could do? Could they use coconut cream or something if they're...
100%. Yeah, 100%. This is actually one of those things where I've made this myself personally using oat milk. Like the heavy cream, it gives it a richness, but really it's just going to be adding kind of more of like a textural element to the custard. Like I think that the fattier something is, the more it's actually going to lend itself to be like a thicker set custard. But you can also modify this by adding a little bit of cornstarch in a slurry or something like this to kind of like help let it set a little thicker if you needed to.
If you don't mind me answering something.
Please.
Bobby, since the show, Bobby has taken on some clients as a private chef.
True story.
And a lot of them have dietary restrictions. And that's one of his favorite things is to adapt things to dietary restrictions. So you can always message him if you have any particular questions.
Yeah, like one of my clients, was was a type 1 diabetic and also kosher. But I was able to, make her meals that she hadn't had, I think, ever, and it was like every day I got to cook for her. It was a very exciting, special thing because she wasn't used to that, and most people don't like to put the time into that. But I think if you're cooking for somebody, it's like the truest form of love and selflessness, especially if you're willing to kind of like make something that's tailored for their diet.
And Bobby's not going to want to say this, but he made her love food again. She was so excited and just completely changed how she looked at mealtime. She's been such a treasure.
Yeah.
Jesse said, what do you hope readers take away from retro recipes?
Well, honestly, my thing from this is just one to kind of like get people to cook again. I think that there's this, I don't know. It's like I think that there is this kind of like curiosity that's been coming back since around like COVID times, where people are all of a sudden like getting really into the idea of cooking again. I know that I actually got more into cooking again because of COVID. But it's one of those things where my hope is that basically you can go in here and pick a couple of things and just make the book messy. Like my own personal book, it's got stains and sticky stuff and just, like flour between pages. Like that's the way I want you to use this book.
This isn't just a pretty book. It's meant to be used.
It's meant to be.
Do you want to remind them about anyone who's tuning in right now?
Yeah, well, once again, if you guys are actually, just tuning in, or if you haven't seen or heard this yet, the whole idea of this is that you guys are going to be able to actually order some signed copies of retro recipes. And so what you end up doing is basically, if you are already on TalkShopLive and that's where you're watching this, all you actually have to do is just click on the shop button and it's going to just take care of that for you. It'll make it so you can actually get that, and then we will ship out to you a signed copy of the book. But at the same time, if you're on Facebook or Instagram, just comment the word shop in this live feed, and then it will actually just DM you all the link and information so that you can actually do that. And in YouTube, it's just going to be in the description.
Here's another question for you. Do you stick to vintage ingredients like Crisco, lard, canned soups, or are you leaning into more modern ingredients like plant-based milks, etc.?
Well, hybrid, right? Yeah, it's kind of hybrid. It's like I personally try to avoid things like Crisco if I can, even though like in this example, I am using like a corn syrup for this, but it's because that is the right way to do it. But in general, a lot of the older dishes would call for Crisco. I substitute it for butter, but at the end of the day, it's a fat is a fat, and really when it comes down to a lot of things, like it's not going to necessarily ruin anything, but at the same time, we've all seen the video. Just please follow the recipes before you decide to deviate, because
yes,
they might not work out exactly the way you're thinking. So if you're going to give me a 1-star review because it didn't work and you substituted 12 ingredients, that's probably why. So really quickly, I just no, you're totally fine. One of the things I wanted to do now is, so I've got the custard base, I've got this going over here, and now the next thing we want to do is basically just add all of this in here and just let this delicious bread drink up this delicious custard. And on top of it, one really smart thing that you could actually do as well is just like taste it. I promise you, it's delicious, and it's not going to hurt you. A lot of people are really afraid of trying to eat, or taste something that might have like raw egg or something in it. The odds of you getting sick from that, especially just doing a small little taste, I wouldn't really be concerned, because we pasteurize our eggs, and if you're on a farm, you can actually kind of pre-cook them mildly by just kind of like poaching them just for a few seconds.
Michael said, "Hola from Chile. We love Chile.
Chile, we love you."
Kathy B said, "What's a classic summer dish we can easily whip up in the summer from your cookbook?"
This is so fun. I love this.
Yeah, that's a great question.
We actually have like a few things in this book that I think you guys are going to really enjoy. But one of the dishes that I absolutely love is the hot dogs, like the stuffed franks. This is a really good example of one where it's a really silly thing. I found it in a book where they called it stuffed franks, and it comes with 3 options: A, B, and C. A is you take a hot dog, you split it, you fill the center with cheese, you wrap it in bacon, and then you grill it and serve it on a bun and you eat it, and it's delicious. The next one option was going to be the same idea. You split the hot dog, you put pickles, wrap it in bacon, and it's delicious, obviously. But the third option, okay, is my personal favorite, and it blows my mind, and it blows everybody's when they hear it. The third option was peanut butter. You split a hot dog. I know, Keiko just looked at me. You split a hot dog, you fill it with peanut butter in the center, you wrap it in bacon, and then you grill it. Slap that on a bun. You're welcome.
And here's the stuffed franks in the book.
And then we also have other fun things in there, like, I personally really love the applesauce meatballs. That's not necessarily per se like something you'd want to like go outdoors and grill, but it is a really, really wonderful option that you could do for a summer dinner party or something like this, because it is so tasty. And just, I don't know, one of those things where it's very, very simple to do. And if you don't want to do it the way that I encourage it, where it's like, you can serve as a canapé with a little like skewer or something with the sauce. But you could also just cook off some pasta or cook off some gnocchi or cook off some potatoes or whatever you want. It becomes a main dish and it is incredibly delicious.
Do you have an old family recipe that has been passed down through generations in this book? If not, do you have one on regular rotation at home?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't, again, like when I was growing up, I didn't really have a lot of recipe things that were passed down to me.
No, but we do have my grandma's cookbook.
That's true. Yeah. So one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize is I actually do collect all these books. This right here is actually a Betty Crocker picture cookbook from what,
And my
56?
my mom wrote her name in it when she was really little, but it's backwards.
And this book right here is actually priceless to me. Like, the when I was,
It's on loan from grandma.
it's on loan from grandma. Yeah. And it's one of those things where, it's like, if anything were to ever happen in this house, there are like, we get our cat and then I get that book and there's like a couple of other things. Obviously I get Keiko. But that book is amongst some of like the most prized treasures that I have in this house. So yeah.
Laura asked, what have you learned by being on Next Level Chef?
Well, what I learned in particular is not necessarily how to be a better cook or anything like this. We got a lot of questions, so we're gonna be faster about this.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much, by the way, for actually like engaging. This is so fun. So one of the things I really learned on the show is just how much, like when I got back from the show, I realized that I needed to get back into cooking in a more, I don't know, like committed way. It's like I make the videos, I love doing these videos, I love cooking for you guys, but there was something that I experienced like cooking for these mentors and everything else, and it made me realize that I wanted to cook for families again. I wanted to cook for people. Keiko's actually here.
Well, because we need to multitask.
Oh, this is ready.
Oh, okay, never mind.
So this is ready, but here's one of the fun things. So what we're going to be doing now, but yes, that was the most important thing I learned, is that like when I got back, that was like the calling that made me realize I wanted to go into private chefing, because I wanted to cook for other people and I wanted to, like, I don't know, get better. And I feel like I'm one of those people that I have to kind of be pushed near the edge of a cliff to kind of like get that fight or flight mode and be better and challenge myself.
I think you've grown so much as a chef since the show. Amanda F asked, actually these go in hand. Kira asked, do you use a lot of kitchen gadgets? Amanda asked, what is your favorite old school kitchen tool? And Harry asked, do you have any retro kitchen tools? And wants to see the show.
Okay. So yes. Okay. So this is actually, I was going to be grabbing one of these over here. So this is from a company called the Chef Press. And this is one of my favorite things. And it's not vintage. This is actually a newer device, but it's one of those things where you can basically stack these and it just makes like a really nice grill plate. Now, back in the day, they used this. And it's basically a huge kind of weight. This one's called Hometown Grill Press, but this one is so cute because it has a little piggy on it. And so it's one of those things where when I found this, I don't even want to use it because it's too cute. So I keep this over here. If I were to talk about my favorite, which one?
The seltzer thing.
Oh, yeah. So
Your cast iron.
yeah, I've got so many retro things, like
He's got a lot of these mid-century hand.
That's what I was gonna grab. So these like soda siphons are also like just the coolest and they work,
And can I say these mid-century hand mixers, they are so much better than anything you can get today.
That is
Smelling.
Yeah, that thing is, I usually whisk everything by hand anyway. I just feel like it's a little more of a sensory thing. But when I'm using something, that's the only one I use. Sorry about that. That's the only one that I use and it works perfectly. But yeah, for the most part, actually, I have one more thing. This is the coolest. In my drawer, I've still yet to actually find this anywhere else, and so this is still like so special to me. So this is just a normal vegetable peeler. No, it's not. This is also a rasp grater. So really, at the end of the day, it was kind of meant to be more as like a cheese peel, because it would double as kind of like you could peel your cheese, but then you could also grate the cheese on this. And I think that this is such a genius design. I don't use it because it's got a lot of rust, and I
had to remove it from about 150 photos because he tried to put it in every single one. Tara asked, any cocktail recipes in the book? No, there are no cocktail recipes. They're mocktail, but you can easily add booze to it. Neither of us drink, so it didn't seem like it would be very Bobby.
Yeah,
he is.
But we do have an entire section in there that's dedicated to just like beverages.
Yes.
And that was one of my favorite parts about this.
My sister and her friends are all getting together to test all the beverages, and they do drink. So
that's adorable.
Right? Isn't that so cute? This is one of my favorites, classic egg cream.
Oh, the egg cream is if you don't know what an egg cream is, then you should.
Okay, do the next test or step, and then I will get you some questions.
So what we're going to be doing now is also incorporating a technique and a trick that's in the book in the section that's basically, for extras and everyday skills. And this is, I'm going to show you how to make what's called a cartouche. You guys may have seen me make this before, but this is one of the reasons why I like to use this, because the important step of this is that you want to make sure that this custard base sits and rests for hours, at least preferably overnight, but we're going to make a little movie magic as well. So what I do personally is, I just take a piece of parchment paper, and we're just making basically a paper airplane of sorts. So I'm going to fold it in half. Kitten. All right. And now, so I've got the fold crease right here on this side. Now all I'm going to do is just fold this up here. So these sides are touching. And now our crease is right here. Now I'm going to just continue from this point to just fold these to make kind of like a little paper airplane. So I'm going to go like this, and then just keep folding it into that same side on the right. In the book, there are a bunch of really great illustrative photos that kind of show it, because I know that me personally, like, this was a really difficult thing for me to learn because I just struggle learning with things like this. So I tried to make it a point to actually make sure that you guys could learn this too. And I even tested this on Michelle.
Yeah.
And so what's really cool is that once you actually have this basic shape of the cartouche, you take it and you just take the point and you bring it to the center of whatever it is you're doing. So it might not look like it, but this is actually the center of this right here. So when I'm set, all I'm going to do is take this, I'm going to cut back here right at the end using my wonderfully sharp Mercer shears. And then I'm basically just going to take it and just open it up. And now you have a cartouche, which is also known as a false lid. So now I have this perfect little lid right here where I can take this and I'm just going to press down. And this is where these guys also come in handy. So I'm going to take a plate, something that is just going to help to weigh this down. And I'm going to push everything down. So you want this custard to come up, but if you don't have something heavy on top, it's just going to sink back down. So I'm going to put these right up here, press down, and I'm going to put this in my refrigerator, and it's going to sit in there for a few hours.
Just a reminder, press the shop button on TalkShopLive to order your signed copy of Retro Recipes from Bobby. And I'm going to answer this one for you. Ink and Arrows, just for fun, do you enjoy listening to a particular genre of music while cooking? He has a cooking playlist.
I do.
And once you pre-order the book, just go to his page on Instagram and you can fill out the little form and he'll send you all the bonuses for your pre-order.
There's a link in my bio. And so basically at the very top, it'll just be like something in the effect of like, giveaways and extras or something like that. If you click on there, fill it out, and you get immediate access.
Here we're done.
Yeah, and once again, you know, if you guys are actually watching on Instagram or on Facebook, you guys can actually just leave the word shop in the comments, and then it's basically going to, you know, automatically DM to you guys the actual information so that you can actually pre-order and purchase.
And if you're on YouTube, click the link in the description. Joseph said, any recipes get cut from the book? Yes, a lot of recipes got cut from the book. So there's room for many, many more.
Ferg!
What's a hidden gem?
Oh, man. So I think a hidden gem in the book, you know, I mean, like, again, with about 100 recipes, there are a lot of things that I think are really special in this. But if I had to say like a particular hidden gem to you, my guitar loving friend, I would say, I personally really love the Delmonico pie. It just always comes back in my brain because it is so delicious. And if we were to think of something, I mean, like, do you have any favorites you like?
Okay, the chicken divan reminds me of my great grandpa.
Chicken divan, yeah.
And it's so good. We love casseroles in this house. I think they get a bad rap, but they are so good, especially when you have a personal chef like Bobby.
So this right here, it's basically like your favorite casserole that like your mom and family would have made. But it's delicious, and it uses like Ritz crackers with some broccoli, and so it's got a lot of flavor with very few ingredients.
It's a mix of old and new because, of course, in typical Bobby fashion, he does not use the canned soup. I would personally use the canned soup. I don't know.
Yeah. And then somebody had also made a comment about unsalted butter. Keiko gets on me, but I prefer to use unsalted butter because I'm personally seasoning my food with salt as I'm cooking. Because as you're cooking, you want to kind of gradually season as you go. It's osmotically absorbing the salt, reseasoning as it goes. And so it just gives me a little bit more control over it. But yeah.
I don't have a problem with unsalted butter, but if it's just on toast, I want it to be salted.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's on toast, it's very true. It's a very good point.
Fine, I will try the PB stuffed bacon wrapped hot dog when we cook out this week.
I promise you, it is the most surprisingly delicious thing, but creamy.
And then
crunchy.
Barnes Chad asked, how long will the link be active after this live? That's a great question.
It's a great question. I don't particularly know, but I do believe that it, you know, like basically the book is going to be it's going to be sending out on June 2nd. So it's one of those things where it should be live indefinitely. You know, you can go on there and you can buy it with a signed copy. And also, you know, if you visit restaurantrecipeskitchen.com, we also have an events tab on there where you might be able to find me in a town near you and come to one of the signings or one of the events. So
and if you're watching this on Facebook or Instagram, comment shop and it will be sent to your DMs.
Yeah.
So that link will be live in your DMs.
Also, hello, Kevin Arnold. So one of the fun things about this, right? So like passive work, okay? We just made the custard, we threw it in with all the bread. We're now weighing it down and letting it set. You know, we already made our caramel, you know, our butterscotch sauce, which is sitting right here. And it is so delicious. And one pro tip that I personally like is that I'm a big fan of salt. You know, like I don't care if it gives me high blood pressure or whatever. You know, it's like I love salt because I have a salty palate. I think this is one of those things where you can sprinkle a little bit extra salt on there if you want, and it makes it even better. Because
for the record, he doesn't have high blood pressure, and I would not allow him to increase his sodium content. If you would,
that's true.
Okay. We only have about 10 minutes left, so you need to do some movie magic.
We're going to do some movie magic over here. So the idea basically is that if you want, I prefer to cook in something either in a glass or a ceramic kind of pot. This is a really fun Halloween one that we use. But when I'm using this, I would just basically transfer everything in here because it takes a little longer to heat up, but it retains the heat a lot better. Whereas opposed to if you're using metal, it kind of hits it really quick. It's like the way I try to explain is if you think about like cooking in a metal pan versus a glass or ceramic pan, the metal pan is kind of like a sports car, right? It's going to get everything going really quickly. It's going to heat up, but it's going to lose that temperature immediately when you pull it out with aluminum. With glass and ceramic, it takes longer. So it's like a diesel engine, but at the same time, or like burning a log in a fire, it takes a lot longer, but it lasts more. So this is something I think would be really great for this. It's a lot of volume because it makes a ton. So recommended for that. You put it in here, and then you put it in a 325-degree oven and bake it for about an hour and like 15, 20 minutes. Like you want it to really slow and low cook. and it's going to set really perfectly. And then just give it about 10 or 15 minutes to actually, relax a little bit. It's going to cool down, and then we can dress it, which I already did with Movie Magic.
Oh, thank you so much, Ink and Arrows. They said
you so
and
much.
advertising to my friends. Here's to a bestseller cookbook.
You're the best. Thank you, guys. Thank you, every single person that's also had these incredible questions as well, and just hanging out with us.
We have time for a few more questions while he shows you what your recipe should look like. But as a reminder, if you are watching on TalkShopLive, click the shop button and you will get a signed copy of Retro Recipes. If you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, just comment shop to order and it will be sent to your DMs. And if you're on YouTube, click the link in the description.
Yes. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab my last mixing bowl. This is my favorite. Also, pro tip, if you're whipping egg whites and you're trying to make a meringue or anything like this, a copper bowl, that's what you want to use for this, because it kind of like reactively works with the egg whites and it helps it to kind of set and stiffen better. So
now what if they don't have a copper bowl?
You don't have to use one, but it just makes it a little better. With whipped cream, which is what we're going to be making a chantilly next, anything works. So I'm going to be using this for my chantilly, but I wanted to show you guys what it does look like when it comes out of the oven. So this is my butterscotch bread pudding. And what I did was I basically kind of folded some parchment over the pan, which is going to make it a lot easier for me to lift this out once it actually cools. But for right now, I just kind of made a little pre-portioned slice of this. And we're going to dress this up. We're going to finish this off right now for you guys. And then I'm going to eat it.
If anybody has some last minute questions, we have time for a few more. We got through a ton of questions. Thank you so much for all your questions.
And also, just so you guys know, it's not going to shut off automatically in 9 minutes or anything. It's just, we're sticking for about an hour. So if you guys have extra questions, or if this is fun and you guys want to keep going, we can keep going a little bit longer, but for the most part.
But not too much longer, because as you can probably hear, our cat is very upset that we're not having our normal TV time with her right now.
Yeah, Lacey's not happy about it. So also
8 o'clock is usually her TV time.
Also, my best friend Billy, he popped on here earlier, I saw, and his son Oren, I don't know if you saw it, but Oren was asking, it's like, when do we get to see Bobby's kitty? So
Aww.
Lacey's running around, Oren, she's hiding.
Oren, you can come and visit us anytime.
Yeah. So what I'm making right now is my salted chantilly. And so basically, this is the last of the whipped cream that I have. So it's going to be a smaller amount, but I'm just taking a little bit of heavy cream, and then I'm just going to take a little bit of confectionery sugar, so powdered sugar. And I measure with my heart, And I want it to be like sweet, but not too sweet. So a little bit goes a long way. And I prefer confectionery sugar because it basically immediately dissolves, unlike regular caster sugar. And then on top of it, there's a little bit of a cornstarch in here, which also helps to kind of like thicken and makes it really, really nice.
Do you want me to tilt it so they can see?
Yeah, sure. So we got this. And you know what? I want them to also see this beautiful book because we worked our butt off for it. So what I've got over here is basically just the whipped cream, a little bit of powdered sugar. And then I'm also going to just add a little pinch of salt in there. And with this as well, I'm going to be adding a little bit of this vanilla bean paste. I prefer to use vanilla bean paste over just vanilla bean extract. It really is, it's more expensive, but it is absolutely worth it, 100%. And it lasts a lot longer, and it's like the same value. It's just better. And let me come over here. And we're just going to be whipping this until you get about nice, kind of like medium soft beats. When it starts to hold, I would not do this in a machine because the difference between whipped cream and butter is a fraction of a second. So I always encourage people to try whipping cream by hand rather than using a machine. Plus, you're burning those calories so you can afford to eat your bread pudding.
Michael said, greetings from Valparaiso, Chile. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm writing this using Google Translate. Greetings. I love you all and I support you. We love Chile so much and hope to come back and explore more
Or
feeling.
is it? Yeah, it's Michael. Okay. Gracias. Good vibes. Gracias, hermano. And YouTube. Kevin! All right, so we are now, and this is also why I recommend just doing it by hand because it comes together pretty quick. So we're now in this phase where it's kind of like, it's not a stiff peak, but it's almost there. And a few more passes. This is perfect. It's got enough texture to be able to hold it. So if I want to make like a nice canal or something like this, like one of those fun little shapes, I can do it pretty easily. So we are going to finish this off right now. So here's the cookbook. Let's tilt this down just a wee bit. So here's the cookbook.
Please don't pour that on the cookbook.
It's gonna make it better. So I'm gonna take a little bit of my butterscotch sauce and just kind of drizzle it across. Have fun with it. Pour with your heart. Is that not? That's not nearly enough, is it?
No, I think it needs more personally.
Do you think that you could do me a favor and be my assistant, my sous chef? And then actually here I'll just. So
I'm also going to be the one to remind you to press the shop button if you are on TalkShop and you want to order an autographed copy of Retro Recipes.
Please do it.
And comment shop if you are on Instagram or Facebook, and it will be sent directly to you. And then in YouTube, the link is in the description.
Mm-hmm. And so here's the last little step. So basically, this is how I do it, at least. So I've got this set up here, plenty of butterscotch sauce, and then I do what's called a rocher. Basically where you kind of take this, drag it, and you have the shape of what's called a quenelle. But if you don't have a spoon or confident to do it, you can take 2 spoons that have nice deep wells, roll them like this between each other, and you get this beautiful shape, which is called a quenelle. Set it down and then gently forward or back.
Oh, that's pretty.
Do it again. And then my favorite touch, it's not necessary, but I think it's magic. If you have a little bit of Maldon flaky sea salt, not a lot because we already have enough salt, but just the tiniest little pinch because it offers a textural crumble that really, really makes it so enjoyable. And here we go. This is my butterscotch bread pudding from my cookbook, Retro Recipes. Ow. And yeah, so I think it's actually very, very pretty. And hopefully you guys actually like it as well. And in these last few moments before we end up signing off, if you guys have any fun questions for us, we're just going to sit here and just eat this. So hang tight. Let's see, I'll bring this down. All right.
Well, while you're trying that, and if anyone has any last minute questions, no.
Of course you do. Come on.
I was gonna
Decide. You've been hiding.
I was going to remind people that also when you order the book, if you pre-order the book through TalkShopLive, just make sure you fill out the form to get all your bonuses, including downloadable artwork for free from the book, a Retro Recipes playlist.
It's really fun too. I listen to it almost every day. Like I really
an
love
entry into a major giveaway.
Huge giveaway.
Plus, we have a bunch of huge giveaways on Bobby's Instagram.
Yeah. So we're basically giving away the house. We've worked with about 20 or 30 different companies. So it's going to be a lot of fun to be able to actually share these things with you guys. It's so good. But you have to be signed up for it because otherwise we're not going to know. So if you guys already pre-ordered, just go to the link in my bio. You can already fill out the information there. And then it's just going to automatically enter you to get all these extra bonuses that are offered to anybody. Limited edition prints that go out every Monday. So there are 2 more that are left. They're limited edition. So if you don't get it, you're not getting it. And then on top of it, most importantly, please do me a favor and pre-order my signed copy from TalkShopLive. You can, once again, if you're on TalkShopLive, you can go and just click the link or click the shop button. And if you're on Facebook or Instagram, just comment the word shop, and then it's going to be sent to your DMs. And if you're on YouTube, then you can just go to the description and try it there. Now I'm going to shut up and eat. So thank you.
Thank you everyone for tuning in.
There's a reason why we don't make this often here, because it's so good that I have to give it away, because otherwise I'm going to eat it all. It's so good.
It's really good.
We have 83 people here watching us right now. They're just like angry that I'm just eating and they're not.
By commenting shop or clicking shop.
We're not going to stop saying it until you do it. So, and once again, guys, I just want to put this out there. So this is the cover of the book. If you even know somebody that you think would appreciate it, that's great. Let them know. My mouth's full of things now. But this book is filled with not just great recipes that I think you would love to do. I actually also included in here several dishes that I absolutely think you should not do. So
I disagree.
Oh no!
There's some in there that he does not like that I love.
Like beef fizz?
Oh, don't do that one.
The beef fizz you should not do. In fact, I'm going to read out the instructions on the beef fizz for you really quickly, because it's a really good recipe. So the beef fizz: combine all the ingredients and pour over ice in a chilled glass. Step 2, or don't. So, yeah. I tried to put a lot of my own personality into this book, so if anybody that actually knows me, if you're reading this, you can hear this in my voice and just get that I'm being as sarcastic as I can, because a lot of the dishes, even though they are so special to me, it wouldn't be a retro recipes book if you couldn't just laugh at it and just make fun of some of these things, because that's kind of part of the fun. But a lot of the dishes in here are going to be perfect for a retro themed party. So if you guys are hosting any like fun retro dinners, or you want to, I don't know, like have a kitschy themed party, like I really do think that this book is not only going to be a lot of fun to have, something that people can flip through and just laugh at, but at the same time, the recipes are good. Most of them.
Yeah, they're very good. And it would be, even for somebody like me, who's just a vintage lover and does not cook, I would just love to have this on my coffee table.
And also, this is one of those things where every single recipe in this book is very approachable. Even some of the more like kind of quote advanced dishes, I wouldn't have put it in here if I didn't think that it was something that anybody on here could make. So I try to make everything as approachable as possible. It might have a few more ingredients than some of the other recipes you could look at, but there's nothing that you might not already have in your pantry. So the important thing I'd always recommend is just taking a little time, read the recipes, and just actually, read it twice. Come back through and then just cook with love, have fun with it. And if you ever have any questions, I promise you can send me a message and I will answer you, because I love to chat with you guys.
So, as you can see, Bobby really, really loves to chat with you guys. He's having the best time and I love it.
Yeah, this is honestly like my favorite.
If you want to chat with Bobby in person, make sure that you check out his website as well, because there are tour dates on there and we're about to go on his book tour.
Yeah. And also, if you guys happen to be in the Richmond, Virginia area on this weekend, this Saturday and Sunday, I'm actually going to be speaking in Richmond for the Junior League. And I'm really, it's huge. I'm honored, because it's the longest running kind of like book event that is run in the country. And it is the 81st year of it. And I'm one of, like 6 people on a panel. So I feel very, very honored to be a part of this. So anyway.
Okay, we're gonna have to wrap this up. So just want to do any final,
Oh no, it's just it. So yeah, if anything, I'm just letting you guys know we're doing our closeout right now. So I'm gonna give you guys another minute if you feel like asking questions. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful night. I hope you guys definitely give it a shot and try out some of these dishes. And just get ready. Tell your friends, please, because I think that this book is going to be really, really fun. And you don't want to be left out and have everybody tell you, oh my God, look at this book that I just heard about.
But if you want the autographed copy, make sure you order it from TalkShop. You can click shop on TalkShop, comment shop on Instagram or Facebook, or click the link on YouTube.
That's why she's here. She's better than that. So guys, thank you so much again. And I'm going to send this off. I'm going to talk to you guys soon. But if you guys like this, just feel free to let me know, and take care. Have a wonderful night.
Is it all up?
Hello. We'll see.